Can't dribble himself free. He's going to have to take a long one. Klein, step back, three for the tie. Oh! He's done it again!
They get it to him. More in space. A burst of speed. A first down for Purdue. He's still going. More. Cuts back. Touchdown!
All like that.
Floating off the house and into the roof for the hammer.
Each one more.
Second down and 10. Offensive line continues to do a great job. Wide open. Got it. Touchdown Purdue. Seth Morales. Holy Toledo.
All right, welcome
Always
back,
feel it.
everybody, to the Boiler Express podcast. My name is Damon, or the Ultimate Boiler. We've got Chris, or 50 Ghost, with us. We've got Frank, the Stat Tank, and we've got a special guest with us tonight, Joe Jackson, big data and analytics guy, loves Purdue basketball, and we're super excited to have him on the show today to really dive deep into some stuff. I feel like him and Frank are just gonna melt our brains.
Yeah, I'm just going to sit back and act like I understand everything that's going on.
Yeah, just smile and nod,
Yeah.
nod. So, also another shout out to just Chris again for that intro. I love that intro every time we start it up now. I just get so fired up. I'm like ready to run through a brick wall. So great job on that intro again, Chris. But yeah, so we're going to talk basketball for a while, and then towards the end, after we're done hanging out with Joe, we'll talk a little bit of we'll wrap up with a little bit of football. But yeah, so Purdue's had their first couple games. They started off with a game against
Milwaukee.
I was gonna say I like that game was like losing, and I was at that game too, and I was like, who did we play? But we played Milwaukee and Austin Peay. So we saw some stuff, some different stuff from last year that we'll get into. Number one, I think the biggest thing that's sticking out to a lot of us is our defense, and how much it's improved, and just the overall, I feel like, togetherness of this team. I feel like somebody made the comment that it looked like Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer had already been playing together for like 3 years. So seems like the guys are just gelling together really well. But we'll get into all that and everything, and I'm excited to hear about some really diving into it from Frank and Joe's perspectives. So with that, Frank, I'll kind of let you take the lead on this basketball discussion and get started.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I think back to the two games last week, like you said, defensively, it's definitely a big leap forward from last year. I know this time last year, kind of as a fan base, we were saying like we shouldn't have let that team score that many points, but we scored 92. So that's fine. And this year we're seeing a different team. We're seeing a grittier team. We're seeing a team that kind of seems to maybe take a little bit more pride in defense. And Newman said in the post-game press conference that it's kind of become a contagious thing. That the guys seem to be playing on defense, but very, very few mistakes, very few slip-ups. Guys are definitely rotating a lot better. But I like what I've seen defensively through the first couple of games. Offensively, the second game was a struggle. Didn't shoot the ball very well, but I really liked all of our looks, with the exception of maybe two. But I just think that, we were getting some open shots and they just didn't go down. And, despite some people in the fan base saying that we should have won by 50 and we should be embarrassed, by the way we played, I think we played a good game. Shots just didn't go in. And you can still play a good game and not have shots go in, despite what some people say. But that was kind of my main take from the first two games. But welcome to having my mind changed for anyone who disagrees.
So just a quick question, because I didn't really get to catch the second game. I was on my way to Tennessee Friday for a wedding. But in the first game against Milwaukee, we kind of started off the same way that it sounds like the second game went, where we were playing really well, and we were taking good shots, so they just weren't falling. But I feel like what really helped us, especially in that first game, was our free throw shooting. I think we ended up shooting, I think it was in the 80s. I can't remember what the percentage was overall, but shot the free throw percentage really well. So was that kind of the same story in the second game as well? Did they shoot pretty well from free throw, or what did that look like?
Let's see. Total on the night, 13 for 17. So respectable.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the big story within that, Edie going 6 for 10. Like to see that around 7 or 8 personally, but with him dropping 30, I can't complain too much.
Right.
Yeah. I'll say the quote I think I said probably 10 times in that game on Friday, I think it was. Sorry, my days are all blending together. But Painter said last year, what do you do when you're not hitting shots? And I think that was kind of evident on Friday. We didn't shoot well at all from three, and that's kind of our bread and butter, especially since we have like a team full of shooters. But we still were able to win by 21 or whatever it was because we just locked in on defense. And I said it during the game and after the game, and I got cussed out for it. But I think last year we might lose that game with the way defense was. Joe, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, a lot of what you guys echoed. It was very much defense at first. Like you could see those first few possessions. Well, I take that back. The first two possessions, it was Zach Edey down low, and Austin Peace did not throw a double, and I was shocked. So Zach Edey, I think he started 2 straight possessions, 2 post ups. I was like, all right, we're just gonna keep feeding him. Purdue went away from it for a bit, and then that's when like the shots didn't start falling, things like that. It's kind of a close game, but yeah, the defense was there. It's Austin P and Milwaukee, so it's no juggernaut of an offense, but still like being able to just kind of rely on the defense like they did to at least get enough stops to get the offense back going. I think that was huge. And like you said, like that's just something that didn't happen last year. I don't know if I don't know if Purdue loses per se to Austin P, but I think it's a close game last year. Like if the shots aren't falling like that.
Yeah.
Especially because and maybe we'll get more into this later, but they put Zach Edey in a tough spot, and that's just going to happen all year. They continuously just put him in pick and pop action. So, their big guy was setting Austin Peay's big guy was setting a screen and then just popping out to the 3-point line. And now they're testing Zach Edey's foot speed and our rotations. And it seemed like Purdue kind of bounced around with a couple coverages within there. At first, it was just Edey was in drop, so when the screen's set, he's 2 to 3 steps below the screen. And he's just, the whole goal of it is to kind of just force a mid-range, to be honest. And so guard goes over and is forcing him to Edey, and then the ball handler, and then Edey just kind of picks him up and just keep the roller in front. That's the whole point. But now when they pop, he has to then, close out. And he's 7'4", 300 or whatever. Like he's not going to close out well. There's not it's not realistic.
Right.
So eventually they kind of worked into sending a second guy to kind of tag at him at the popper, just to at least make him think about shooting. But yeah, no, overall, I think it's been good. It was good to see Zach Edey dominate that second game after, struggling the first half or the first game. And struggling is, I don't know if that's the right word for 12 points, 17 rebounds, 6 block performance, but
that's so funny that that stat line is him struggling. That's really funny. And then he, like you said, the next game he goes 30 and 11, and I don't know how many blocks he had. But yeah, I absolutely agree. I was at the Milwaukee game, and it was really cool to see, this offense, because it's a lot different than last year. It's a lot more, it typically is going to Edey first, which is cool. I love that. I love that the offense is running through him, because he's a guy to where, if he wants to take it to the hole, he can do that. And if not, he's going to draw people to him, and he's going to be able to dish it out to Fletcher Lawyer or Brandon Newman or somebody that, can get that quick three. And something I absolutely love about Fletcher Lawyer is he's not just catching it and shooting. He can catch it, and then if he doesn't feel like it's a great, if it's not gonna feel great coming off his hands, he can dribble and then reset. I love that. I think that is such a great skill that he has to be able to do that, and I'm so excited for Fletcher Lawyer. I think he's going to be. I think even Sasha tweeted that he's probably going to shatter the 3-point record at Purdue.
he did.
So
Yeah, the first game he had like 12 attempts.
Yeah, he went 5 for 12 from 3. And the
Yeah.
second game was 0 for 5, but even then, it's still good to see him fire.
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah.
I like what you said. Yeah, like the putting it on the floor. I mean, it feels like too easy of a comparison for Lawyer and Sasha just because they're both shooters, whatever. But like that was what Sasha developed late in his career more, was that ability to like, oh, these guys are really overplaying me. I'm gonna put it on the ground now, and at least like have to, they're gonna have to try and do something to stop me.
Right.
And yeah, Lawyers just seems confident day one from it, and part of that was high school. He had the ball in his hands a ton, just a ton. So
and he also
that's kind of what he's done.
Yeah, and came into the year being the reigning national 3-point champion.
Yeah.
I tweeted that. So I watch I'm kind of a wrestling nerd as well. So I watch WWE and stuff like that. And so one of the main characters in right now is Roman Reigns, and he's all about acknowledge me. That's his whole thing. So after I can't remember. No, it was during the Milwaukee game. I think he had just scored his 12th point or something. And I was like, Fletcher Lawyer is your reigning, defending, whatever 3-point national champion. Acknowledge him. And he liked the tweet. And I was like, yeah.
Nice. There you go.
But yeah, also something else that I really liked, again, and I'm just going from the Milwaukee game because it's the only one I saw. I haven't got to watch the highlights from Austin P yet. But the way that Braden Smith takes it up the floor, I really like that he, when he was getting pressed, it was just one-on-one. And I'm sure he would have done it differently if there was multiple people on him. But he takes the time to really get in that triple threat position, kind of survey the floor for a second, and then take action. I don't know why I'm playing with a pacifier. You can tell my daughter was in here recently, but yeah, no, something I think is really cool. He takes the time to survey the floor, kind of see what's in front of him, and then he executes, which is I just love it.
Yeah,
I think
for
he's
sure.
just a really smart point guard.
Yeah, that's who he is. He's gonna. I don't know if he's ever going to be a top tier scorer, but he is going to be one of the best facilitators in the Big Ten. Whether that's this season or next season,
I just like how confident he is already.
Yeah,
from the jump, he was just ready to go.
He's so that was so over the offseason, because I had not really watched any of the recruits. I had not at all, period, before this offseason. So part of the offseason when I was doing my player previews, I watched a bunch of high school film, and man, there was a few plays. The one that stuck out for Braden Smith was it was in sectionals against Fishers, who was number 2 at the time. He comes down, hits probably a 28-footer off the dribble in front of their student section, talks trash to them as he's running down the floor, turns, sprints, catches a full court pass, steals a full court pass, dribbles up, and then does a no-look left-hand shovel pass to one of his teammates for a layup. And then he's
awesome.
He's talking trash again.
Yeah,
and it's just that's who he is. He's gonna not, I don't want to say showboat, but he's gonna perform, and then he's gonna let you know about it. And I think that just kind of builds into that confidence.
But I feel for that reason, maybe, and so I haven't seen the trash talk yet that we saw in high school, because I did watch a lot of his high school footage as well, and he definitely liked to let the other team know that he was there, and every time he scored, and we haven't really seen that yet from him. But I'm thinking, as time goes on, maybe not this year, but he may become that guy that just everyone loves to hate. From an opposing team perspective, everyone hated Matt Harms because he played hard. I think everyone, he could be the guy that everyone hates because he likes to get in people's ears a lot. But that excites me.
Compared him to Aaron Kraft or
that's the easy comparison. Is Kraft.
Yeah, I could see him, having a similar clip or a highlight to Chris Kramer whenever I think him and DJ White got in a lockup for a ball or something when they played IU, and he got in DJ White's face. So here's Chris Kramer, DJ White's up here, and Chris is just all up in his grill. And I could see
did the same thing. Yeah, 3 years later against Michigan State, it was the game day game.
Yeah, so I could see it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, it's really cool, and his vision as well is just incredible. It's funny. He's he sees passes that not even the people that he's passing to sometimes see. I can recall there was a pass at in the exhibition against Truman State where he's like looking the complete opposite direction. It's like out of the corner of his eye, he sees Fletcher Loyer getting open for a 3 on the wing, and he just chucks it. And Loyer wasn't looking, so it goes behind him or something. But just, his vision is just incredible, and something that is crazily just going to only improve over the next, however many years he ends up playing, hopefully 4.
Yeah.
So
No, it's elite. It really is. And that's like, once I watched the film, I was less worried about the point guard position for this upcoming season. And he is a freshman, so there's going to be lumps. And
Mhm.
specifically with him, he's such a good passer that like it's going to get him in trouble at times
Yeah.
because he's going to force, or he's going to like last game there was he had Edie on a roll if Edie rolls, and I don't know whose fault it's on, but Edie sets a high screen, comes off, I think 2 go to the ball on Braden Smith, so now Edie's open for a roll if it's there, if he does, and Braden throws it right where like it would have been, but Edie just doesn't go. And I don't that's not the greatest example because I don't Edie may not have been rolling on purpose or whatever, but yeah, the vision is just so good. And he just sets people up. If you watch him and you watch his eyes, he's always just like he's setting people up.
He's like moving defenders like a quarterback in a free safety. Like that's crazy.
He does. He really, really does. He's gonna come up, especially when he comes up the floor, like in a fast break or semi-transition opportunity. Like he's gonna move a low man to the corner, thinking that he's gonna go there, and then he's gonna dump it off to Gillis on the block or something like that. But I think at times, I'm going to be honest, fans are going to get mad at him because he's going to force, and they're going to be like, "Oh, why is he making that pass?" But it's I don't know if it's you don't necessarily live with it because of how high level of a passer he is, but it's just something that's like it's just going to happen.
High risk, high reward.
Yep.
I mean, we did see that last year with Trevion too. I mean, he'd make a pass and he'd say, "How did you do that?" And then he'd make a pass and he'd say, "Why did you do that?" It was one of those things that you came to accept. And there was a play in the second half, and Joe, from time to time, I slow down plays and send them in our group chat conversation. But there was a play that he made in the second half against Austin P, where I think we were trying to run it seemed to be kind of a broken Spain action where they set a really high ball screen. Morton came up to kind of hit Edie's roll man, but 3 guys ended up on Braden Smith, and he somehow like lobbed it over the top to get it right to Edie, like in for the dunk. Like, I mean, and I think the easier pass would have been to hit either, I think it was Gillis or Loyer on the perimeter, but like he somehow just like got it right over to him for an easy dunk. Like that was impressive in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think I kind of remember what you're talking about, but yeah, no, he's gonna he's just really good in those situations.
I think that's the interesting thing too, and I think we've seen a lot in the first 2 games where Painter said that this team almost passes too much to a fault, where like you can almost see it. You're like, oh, shoot it, and then he passes it, and I'm like, just take the shot. Like but I don't know, man. The differences from last year, this year, and seeing things improve. I even said last year I would drop 15 positions in Ken Palm to go up 15 positions in defense last year. Just because it was like, man, just some of the defensive lapses were crazy. And the one thing, and I said it a couple times, I think in both of the games that we played, that just some of that scramble defense we had in both games was really impressive. Like, sure, it looked like it was chaotic, but everybody was doing their job, getting to their guys and rotating well. And it just seems like things are clicking. And like, especially when Newman says it's contagious, that's always a good thing to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. No, the defense is going to have to be in rotation a lot this year, especially that second game, right? Like, it looked good, which is a great sign. But if teams are going to run pick and pop and Edie's going to have to step out, like they're either going to have to let the big man shoot, or they're going to have to send a guy and then from there be in rotation. But yeah, no, like you said, they were in rotation and everybody was going where they needed to be, and that's great.
Yeah.
And that was one of my biggest things I was most excited about Austin P was like how well does Edie defend a true pick and pop guy. Elijah Hudgens Everett was a 4-star guy at high school, can shoot. Just really curious to see how that went. And that first 3 he got was a little more open than I would have liked. But there was definitely some adjustments after that, and he wasn't as open, going forward. But I do think that's going to be something teams look to exploit, especially with a lot of talented bigs in the Big Ten this year. I know Hunter Dickinson comes to mind.
The guy still gives me
Maybe a
nightmares.
problem.
Yeah, maybe not Race Thompson, but guys like him. They're
Yeah.
it's the year of the big, as they say in this league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and,
Mhm.
even we do a Twitter space after every game with Aiden, just kind of going over the game and stuff. And we actually had an
Mhm.
Austin P player hop in after this last one, just
Oh,
kind of
cool.
randomly. Yeah, he just kind of showed up, but then we talked with him, and he was just like, "Yeah, like our game plan on offense was we're gonna put Zach Edey into space, and we're gonna make him try to defend, and that's gonna be the thing this year for teams." Yeah, Hunter Dickinson is the one that always pops into my head. Like I have absolutely no clue how Purdue's gonna guard him.
Yeah. That's actually really cool. You had somebody jump in.
Yeah, no, it was pretty cool. It was just I don't know how he found us because he didn't follow either of us or anything, but
Right.
yeah, he hopped in. And we were just kind of able to talk with him for a bit, go over. He didn't give up
Yeah.
like a ton or anything, but go over
Yeah,
a little
but
bit over
pick
the
his
game
brain
plan.
and ask some
Yeah.
questions. Yeah.
For sure, it was awesome.
Oh,
That's really cool.
Well, yeah, Joe. Again, we appreciate you being on. Would you mind, maybe if there's anyone out there who's not following or is not aware of you and what you're bringing to the Purdue fan base as a whole, would love to hear you talk about how you got started doing what you're doing and kind of how you got to where you are now. Because for anyone who's not following this guy, it's a must do. I mean, some of the stuff you put out is. I thought I knew the X's and O's of basketball, and I just realize every day that I don't. But I'm getting there because of the stuff you put out. So you kind of talk through, how you got started doing what you're doing, and kind of how you got to where you are now, and kind of what
Yeah.
a day in the life of Joe looks like.
Yeah, I appreciate all that. So, and you say like you're realizing you don't know X's and O's, and like I realize the same thing every day. It's something I kind of battle internally of like, I know I'm putting all this out, but like I don't actually feel like I know a lot, but I know I do when I look at the grand scheme. But yeah, so just I guess a little background. I'm currently a grad student at Purdue. Um, I got my undergrad here in stats. Now I'm getting my master's in econ. Um, and so I've always, played basketball in high school, that whole thing. I've always loved it. And then, I'm not playing college basketball, so obviously I was not good enough. So I started, I've always loved numbers a lot. I'm, majored in stats, master's in econ, nerd like that. So I've, started diving in my freshman year of college to basketball analytics. Started just with, Dean Oliver's Basketball on Paper. And then from there kind of progressed. Yeah, great book.
Great book.
So my sophomore year, I actually just by myself, I was trying to like get an in with the Purdue analytics basketball guy.
Oh, nice.
Who he's currently, I don't think he's currently, no, he's not. He's kind of doing freelance stuff now. But I did my own project. I rewatched every single Purdue game, charted it, looked at like, it was all done by hand, so it wasn't great, but it was like potential assists and like
Wow.
what type of shots, like, are we doing open catch and shoot shots? Is it off the dribble? And like, what are those resulting like points per possessions, things like that. That was also during like, that was the first 3 to 6 months of COVID. So a lot of time on the hands too, which helped. So I did that my sophomore year, and then or I did that. When did I do that? No, I did that before my sophomore year of my freshman year season, which was the Elite 8 team. And then that following year, I did it during the season, and I also did it for my high school. So that leads me kind of to where I am now. So going into my senior year, I was like, I really like this analytics stuff, but also like I want to know more about the game. Kind of stumbled across some NBA guys, which if you're looking to know more about the X's and O's, follow Nikias NBA and Steve Jones _20, I believe. Steve Jones Jr. is his name on Twitter. They're absolutely phenomenal. Steve Jones was a former coach for the Grizzlies, or assistant. But just stumbled across theirs, was like, and that's where I first learned about like all this threading and stuff. So they would just, NBA games, they would pick it apart on Twitter, on their podcasts. And I was like, man, this is really fun. And I'm going to try it for Purdue. So started that last year during my senior year, and just kind of went with it. Didn't know a ton from the X's and O's standpoint. Like I knew some of the basics, but just really wanted to learn. And I was like, Twitter's, putting on Twitter gives me a platform to do it, and at least kind of hold me accountable. I did not expect it kind of to take off like it has, but yeah, just so now I'm I guess I never really explained. I kind of talked around it all, but now I am currently for every Purdue game, I thread it on Twitter. So basically, I rewatch the game, I clip it up into certain possessions, and then I post it on Twitter and kind of talk about what I'm seeing, what I like, don't like, things like that. And so that's pretty much what I'm doing now. I'm trying to expand more to more Big Ten in general. I haven't done like full threads of other Big Ten games, but I have posted some clips here and there of other Big Ten games, just kind of trying to learn more. That's really all this is for me. I'm just trying to learn more X's and O's,
Yeah.
trying to understand the game better. And then, from there, it's kind of built a little, I kind of feel like I've built a little niche in the Purdue community, which I've enjoyed being able to, meet a ton of great people in the Purdue community. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now, kind of how I got there.
That's awesome. Yeah, honestly, like my favorite thing when I open up Twitter and I see like the clip of the game tipping off, I'm like, oh, let's go. All right.
Yep.
Like, and just diving into it and reading about it is really cool because for me, I'm not so statistic and analytical. And so that's a really cool perspective for me because it's just not something I used to I think about a lot. And so it's just really neat how much you and Frank both can just, really pick apart the game and just talk about it in so many different ways. Like one of my favorite things that Frank does is like when a basketball game is going on, he'll send like an update of like, the points per possession and kind of what that's looking like. And, something to really keep up with during the game. And so, yeah, just super interesting stuff. Really, really cool. That's awesome, man. I appreciate what you do. And it's really awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you guys like it. Like I said, I'm just trying to learn more. And so one thing with all this is like I am very much aware that what I say is not always right. It is what I think at the time, but I'm
Mhm.
never gonna be stuck in my ways. So like for anybody out there, like if you see a play and you're like, hey, no, he said this, but I actually kind of think this, like let me know. I'm definitely, I want to learn. I want to communicate because that's what's fun about basketball to me too. Is like all four of us could look at the same play and see four different things, and in some sense we could all be right. Like
Right.
it's not this very black and white thing for a lot of it. It's a very much like I think this is why, and then if you can back yourself up, then it makes sense.
Well, I think one thing that I personally have learned from watching a lot of your stuff is terminology isn't necessarily consistent. I know once last year you used the term Zoom, which is something I was unfamiliar with, and come to find out it was what I had always seen as Chicago, right? So
Yeah,
it's but some people call it Zoom, some people call it Chicago. I mean, some people call it a pin
same.
down and a dribble handoff. Some people don't use the term pin down. I mean, but
Yeah,
in
back in
reality,
Spain is
it's
the
the
other
same
one.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so I started looking into that and I'm like, well, what's Zoom? And I'm like, oh, it's just another name for the same thing. And that's to me what
yeah,
makes the X's and O's of basketball so complex is effectively like what are you doing? Like and we're gonna call it 50 different things and different teams are gonna call it different, different
yeah.
actions, different things. But I definitely, I watch your stuff and then I do a fair amount of Googling. I go on Medium and check out the basketball dictionary,
Yep,
which
that's
if
the
I'm sure you're
best.
familiar with as well. I know
The best.
if you're an analytics guy, you probably are on Medium from time to time. I'm sure, like I am. So I'm always looking on that. I'm like, okay, yeah, and I learned something new, and then I see it, and I've noticed over the last couple of years that the when I'm watching a game, the court looks much bigger now. I'm no longer watching the ball; I'm watching everything,
Mhm.
that's a really cool place to be. And again, watching a lot of your stuff has really sped that process up. So
Yeah,
really appreciate everything you do. It's really like I know a lot of work goes into that, and that's it. It doesn't go unnoticed.
I appreciate that. And yeah, that last thing, that last part you mentioned where the court opening up is that's something I still like. I have to almost just switch my brain into that mode of like, oh, I can't just ball watch here. Um, and so even like right before this, I was watching Penn State Butler, and I was
Same.
like, oh, okay, yeah, it's really good. I'm really high on Penn State, but aside from the point, like I was watching Pickett go through pick and roll. It's like, oh, I have no clue what just happened in the corners. Or even if I'm rewatching the game, it's like I need to rewind 20 seconds because I literally could not tell you what just happened.
Mhm.
So there's still a lot of that for me. It's
So
like,
if you're If you're watching a game live, will you ball watch and then go back and rewatch the game so you can do the analytics part of it, or are you trying to do both at the same time?
It depends.
Yeah.
So especially this year, like I'm writing for a small college basketball outlet, and I'm doing more threads and stuff. So like, there's a lot more like work aspects, work in quotes, because like I love it. If I'm trying to actually do that, then yeah, I want to do it live just to kind of
Okay.
save time.
Yeah,
But
efficiency.
like if there's just a game I want to just enjoy, and maybe I have homework or just kind of want to hang out, then yeah, I'll maybe just kind of ball watch more live just to have fun. And then if there's something like later, I'll go back and watch.
Okay.
But like this year, or yeah, the difference between this year and last year for Purdue basketball for me is a good example. Last year, it was definitely, especially when I was at Mackey, um, like those games, I'm just watching live and I'm just enjoying.
Yeah.
And then I'd rewatch, right? Whereas this year, because of like doing the spaces after, kind of that aspect, I'm still, still just enjoying Mackey because Mackey's the greatest place
Mackey.
ever. Yeah. But also I am trying to, when plays actually going on, like, oh, okay, like the pick and pop, for example, it's like, oh, okay, that time we had a weak side guy tag over, or the next man guy tag over on the big, so that way, and just stuff like that. So I'm trying to incorporate that more now for sure.
Nice.
Very cool.
Do you ever feel like it's almost a curse, the ability to, or like for me, I struggle to ball watch sometimes. And like, I wish I could at times. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, or if it's just me that's gone through that.
No, I'm almost, I don't want to say I wish I had that, but I kind of wish I do. I'm definitely the opposite. And my default for me is just to ball watch, and so I have to click into, watching the whole thing. It's becoming a little
envious
more
of
natural,
that.
but it's we just
My
gotta
my
combine.
wife my wife often challenges me to watch a college basketball game without running some code in the background. So it's just the way I've come to watch basketball now. I gotta know the
Yeah,
stats and gotta know turnover percentage, offensive rebound percentage. I just have to know
yeah,
all that stuff, and I'm
for
not sure
sure.
what it is. It's just the way my brain's wired. But
No, and that's the other part of basketball, like, or sports in general, is like they're fun. Like
Yeah.
I in the same way that dissecting a play is in black and white, I truly think like sports in general, the way you enjoy them aren't black and white. I know Boiler in Texas posted an article today, kind of just about like how he's posting more of the positivity, and it's just like it's a good thing. Obviously, there should be critiques and stuff, but everybody should just enjoy it how they enjoy it, as long as it's not harming others. Is my kind of thought on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can definitely there's like definitely that difference between like being a positive, like, fan versus
Mhm.
blind allegiance. And I think sometimes those get overlapped. People think that if you're just really positive and you think the sun's going to come up tomorrow, that you're kind of blindly following, and, you're not, being critical. But I think you can definitely still be critical and have those positive outlooks though. I think it's a good balance, but for sure. And that's what we've tried to do, with this podcast. That's one of the main reasons we all got together, is because we all got really, it all weighed on us, just and I'm sure every fan base has it, but just the negativity that can come with just the, fan bases of college football, basketball, and just trying to put a positive spin on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
No, like last year was my first year on Twitter in my life. I didn't really have social media that much growing up. Um, and
Nice.
man, when Rutgers banked in the three, it was a wild time on Twitter.
yeah,
I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I think I put like one thing out, like trying to stay positive, and then at some point I think I just tried to not look, but it's so ingrained that like
Yeah.
it's almost an instinct just to look at Twitter.
That was awful that
It
night.
was
That was
terrible.
oof.
Well, and
I'm
it's just
embarrassed to admit that I actually fell, like left my feet when that happened. I was
It
standing
makes
up.
two of us.
I like kind of fell into like a sit position. So it's kind of
Mm,
like I'm starting to fall. So I'm just going to turn this into a sit. And I mean, it's the only time in my
yeah.
life I think that's happened to me. And I was at the Virginia game. So That was more of a
See,
gut punch than the Virginia game because it was just such a fluke,
Yeah.
But then he did it again. He did it again that season too, so maybe it wasn't. But
as soon as Harper got the ball, I was like, this is it. I think I
Yeah,
was watching with
that's how I
my
was
girlfriend,
too.
and my friend. I was like, as soon as he touched, I was like, yep, this is going in. Still was shocked, but
Yeah,
Right.
I was definitely the person after the game that was like, the ball it shouldn't have counted because Harper took like I don't know, like he walked to the grocery
6.5
store back
steps.
before. Yeah, he walked to like
Well,
the
it
grocery
was
store and back before they started the clock.
yeah.
When it was just
It's an accurate statement, but it's like, yeah, what are you gonna do about it?
Doesn't change
right.
it.
Yeah, I was hoping Teddy Valentine was going to see that post on Twitter and go, you know what, guys, we got to run this back. We got to game's over. I got to change the result after seeing that tweet.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
but
my funny story about they're not really funny, but just kind of odd coincidence story about that game is in this past summer I was in Portugal for several days and did a bike tour in Lisbon, and there were some Americans there, and of course I had a Purdue shirt on like most days, and one of the guys came up to me and said, "Oh, are you a Purdue fan?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am." He's like, I saw Purdue play last year. I went to Rutgers and I went to the Purdue Rutgers game, and I was like,
Really?
but actually he said that like even he like couldn't believe it. That was one of the craziest things he's ever seen. And in his opinion, he said, neither team should have won that game, but
It's fair.
when you went on a half court buzzer beater, you don't necessarily deserve to win, but
Right.
just crazy to go thousands of miles away from home and
And
meet
still get
somebody who was at
reminded.
that game.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. It can never escape me for sure.
Hmm.
And so kind of, talking about X's and O's and, you kind of being that, diving into that deeply, what have you seen differently this year? I know the sample size was pretty small, but last year our offense was, I don't want to say fairly predictable, but we kind of got into our offense a lot through the Iverson, a lot through that, what I call the Chicago.
Yeah.
What have you seen differently out of this team this year so far?
I think it is a lot of the same, just kind of different pieces. There's still the Iversons, like you said, which is kind of, you have two guys on the elbow and one kind of runs across, both getting a screen. There's still like the box sets and the Chicago. Chicago is just going to be a staple of Matt Painter's offense as long as he has some sort of shooter, which I really like that for Lawyer, just kind of being able to get the Chicago is, the pin down into the direct handoff. I really like that for him, just being able to get him on the move. But I think it's honestly going to be somewhat similar. I think there might be a little bit better spacing, especially with kind of the contrast of First and TKR. Whereas last year, it was, you go from Edie to Travion, and they're both elite, but they're similar. Not, they're both going to bang down low. Obviously, Travion's a better passer, yada yada. But and that's kind of one thing I've thought of this year. I don't want to say First is better than Travion, because I think we would all say that's inaccurate. But like the thought of, okay, we have Gillis and Edie, so we have Edie just dominating down low, and Gillis is going to space, and now we're going to bring in a whole different front court of Trey Kaufman, who can bang down low and space some, and then First is more of a spacer, I think. I think it's just a really tough problem that defenses are going to have to try to figure out what to do. You're almost game planning for two different teams. I do think with that,
it kind of reminds me of like what I had hoped last year was going to be with Travion.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for sure. Like they ran 10 guys last year. I think they'll run 10 for at least a while this year. And it was last year there was legit two lineups. I think at some point there was almost like a 5-for-5 subbing, especially early on. And I don't know if it'll ever quite get to that, just because of the staggering, I think, of Smith and Jenkins and Morton. It's going to make it a little different, but yeah, no, it's definitely going to be similar. I think that second unit's going to be interesting, because I think that's where it's going to be a little more, I don't know if pick and roll heavy, but like the Jenkins, I think, is going to get the ball a little bit more than what I was originally planning on coming into the year. Elite sniper. And I think what's going to be interesting about that second group is both him and Newman are the ones that are running those Chicagos, those Iversons, the floppy actions or pin downs, like all those stuffs. Like those can be run for both of them. Even Waddell, I'm super high on Waddell. I think he's looked great these first two games. his decision making has been really good in my opinion, and he's been able to get downhill some, which is promising. But yeah, getting back to
That's
your original
surprising.
question, what?
Oh, that surprised me seeing him get downhill a couple times.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
both times I
he's
was like, okay, I can
yeah
get used to
generating big
this. Yeah,
touches. Yeah, for sure. If he wants to give 8 to 10 quality minutes a game, I'm happy. But
absolutely.
I think it's going to be a lot of the same on offense. Obviously, when Edie's in, he's just going to get the ball, and they're going to run. They'll run those, like, I don't know actually the name for them, but those little cross screens for Edie to get on the block, and then we'll space it
Mhm.
out. I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do with spacing, especially with, in theory, there's 8 to 9 shooters on this team, right? I think in the presser, Edie was like everybody was a 40% shooter at some point in their career, and I would have been too, except for teams don't let or Painter doesn't let him shoot. Um, and so I think that's going to be the biggest thing is there feels like there can be more space, which would have been great for somebody named Jay Ivey, but whatever. And then I also think there's going to be a little bit more pick and roll, which again would have been great for somebody named Jay Ivey, but I digress. I think Smith's going to get a little bit more pick and roll action, especially kind of in transition. He'll get a lot of those like drag screens from Edie and just kind of let him initiate the offense and then kind of dice up the defense from there, whether it be generating a paint touch and then kicking out to the perimeter, or if he's hitting Edie on the roll, or if nothing's there, then right, like you get into your set and run whatever they have drawn up.
Yeah, and I from my slightly less educated I feel like the offense looks a lot different with first at the five.
Mhm.
At least for me, we're running things that I couldn't put a name to necessarily, and looks a lot different from last year. But you make a really good point in that you're almost game planning for two different types of fives. You've got Edie who can go down low, and you've got First who you do have to respect his ability to shoot. So and I know Painter's talked about, playing against Caleb First in practice every day has helped Edie's defense, especially in ball screen scenarios. So, that's a really good point, and I'll be curious to see how he develops. He was great last year. He's a couple shots haven't gone in, but other than that, he's looked pretty good this year. A little late in a few scenarios on defense, but
Mhm.
I expect him to make a pretty big leap this year, and I think he'll be a good, a kind of a key person. He's got the size, he's got the athleticism to hang with some of the guys we're going to see in Marquette tomorrow night. So,
Yeah.
how's everyone feel about that game, just kind of as a whole?
Honestly, I don't know a lot about Marquette. I watched a little bit of some highlights of their first couple games. They're definitely an offensively powerful team. Um, but I think I was looking on my ESPN app, and I think Purdue's they're like 75% favored to win that game, which is interesting. I think this is Purdue's. I think this is a really going to be. Obviously, it's early in the year, but I think this can be a really good indicator for maybe the season. And again, super early in the year, but I think this is a good indicator for like a proven team or just a really solid team. How do we respond to that? How do we show up? Um, and what that's going to look like. So I think it could be a grinded out kind of game, depending on how we get our offense moving, because we've kind of seen both. We can get it going pretty well, or it can kind of stagger a little bit, and we have to pick up that extra slack on the defense. So I'm kind of imagining a game probably in the 60s for both teams, maybe like a 67-60 win for Purdue, or kind of somewhere in that range.
Yeah. No,
Joe, what are your thoughts?
yeah. I'm definitely concerned just because of how fast they're playing. I'm looking up at Ken Palm on here. Um, they have the fastest offensive tempo in the country, and that's just Edie's going to have to be moving. They play kind of five wingy type guys, and I think pretty much everybody is a threat from three except maybe Igodaro. Um, the guy that I do the spaces with, Aiden, he actually did a coaches camp with Marquette over the summer, and so he was able to talk to some of the guys. And I was talking with him, and he said, yeah, like they're basically the guy that runs Marquette's offense. It's just like go 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 go, and so they're gonna run, and Purdue's gonna have to be ready for it. They're also gonna try and force a ton of turnovers, and it's going to be a really good litmus test for Brain Smith, right? Like Braden Smith's probably going to have a few turnovers just because how he plays, but then they're going to force him. But if he can limit it to 3-ish, and if him and Lawyer combined can limit it to like even 4, even 5 turnovers combined, like I think if that happens, Purdue puts themselves in a really good chance to win. The other thing that does worry me is they put up 38 threes against Central Michigan, and they had 27 assists. And I don't know how what you guys feel with opponents' 3-point shooting, but I just automatically think teams shoot about 15 to 20% better against Purdue.
Billion
Always.
percent.
No actual data or anything behind it, but it's just what it seems like every time. So that part worries me too. But kind of as I was saying, before we started, like if Purdue is a legit team, this is a game they win, right? Now, if they lose, it doesn't mean that they're done with it being the third game. There's still plenty of time to improve, but like getting a win here, I think gives them a lot of confidence, kind of getting into that. Florida State and then the PK 85 tournament is going to be a big test. Like I think this is a big win just to kind of show that they can hang with a quality team.
And I think that as we were saying before, that a loss here is not the end of the world, but I think this is kind of a win-win scenario when we look at the season as a whole. Like a win here, great. It's going to be great experience for our guards. So I don't know if we've mentioned it yet, but they press a lot. I think they pressed on about 30% of possessions so far this season. So they really try to get forced turnovers. Then they really try to force tough shots when you do break the press too. I was listening to the Painter show earlier, and he was saying that they do a great job of when the press is broken, still getting back quickly and forcing tough shots. So you're not getting those open threes, you're not getting those easy dunks when you do break the press. So I think this will be a good game to kind of make our younger guys grow pretty quickly. That being said, I mean they are the fastest offense with respect to possession length, average 13 seconds per possession. When you force as many turnovers as they do, though, that kind of makes sense. They're getting quick turnovers, before you cross half court and scoring. Their biggest kind of Achilles is their own turnover percentage. They're turning it over quite a bit themselves, so they're forcing a lot of turnovers. They're not taking care of the basketball, but ultimately, I think the big factor in this game is going to be rebounding. If we can rebound the ball, give ourselves some extra possessions that way, I think we come out ahead. But my prediction here, which I'm pulling up my spreadsheet, 76-69 Purdue.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm looking too. Like Marquette they're not good against defending 2-point percentage right now, 259th. I looked up, so yeah, they're pressing on 37% of possessions, which is 0, and that's 0.653 points per possession. That's per synergy,
Which is
so
respectable for a press. That's good.
yeah, it has them at 67th percentile, so solid. Like, yeah, they're gonna. Let's see, what's the 24.5% turnover percentage? So they're turning it over a fourth of the time they press. They're turning the ball, forcing a turnover. So,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a good test for these guards.
So do you think that with their speed, do you think Caleb First ends up playing a lot more than what he has been? Yeah,
I think he's
probably. I don't know. It's interesting. It's because if I remember right, and if I'm wrong, definitely correct me. But I think First ended up playing a little bit of the 4 last game, right?
He did.
Like
We did see
yeah.
First and Edie together, and it didn't hit me quite at first because it brought me back to last year. But I'm like, wait a second, they're both in the game right now, and part of me wondered if that was a kind of a test for this upcoming game.
Yeah, no, and I think it could be. I think with Marquette going to try and space and they're going to run, that draws Edie away. And so First was okay guarding 4s last year, I think, and he's probably better suited for the 5. But I'm interested, and this is just kind of me thinking. I could be totally wrong. I'm interested to see if they play him at the 4, because at least for some spurts with Edie, because then now if Edie does get dragged out, you have somebody that at least, in theory can protect the rim, right? I don't, as great as Gillis is, he's not a rim protector. I don't know about Trey Kaufman as a rim protector yet. He's just I'm going to have to see it until, before I decide yes or no. But First has the athleticism and the speed that if he's stationed kind of in the corner on a guy, he can rotate over and then protect the rim. And so then what that allows is Edie doesn't have to worry about the paint quite as much, and he can focus more on getting out. Or if, they're in transition, First can be the one kind of to get back first, and then protect the rim. So I'm interested to see that if they go to that at all, because I think that would be a reasonable. I think that's the best counter to it while keeping Edie in the game, right? Because then on the other end, Edie should probably be fairly dominant unless they're doubling, and even then, I think he's really improved as a passer. So
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if they take him one-on-one, if they go the Chris Beard approach with that or not. But
yeah, I just don't. It doesn't never like Austin P did it too for the whole first half, and it just didn't make sense. Like I get from what how they came on and said like their whole thing was pretty much like Edie's gonna get his, and then we're gonna make nobody else beat us, like nobody else score. And to their
So they
to their
basically
point, it
tried the
worked.
AJ Hammonds against IU a few years ago, where he had like 41 points and everybody had like 3.5.
Yeah, pretty much. So maybe that's just what teams are gonna do more, and they're gonna be like, all right, Edie go get 25, and then nobody else is gonna score on us. I don't know.
That doesn't
Yes,
seem like a good recipe. Not
Yeah.
like a basketball coach.
So do you
Well-
think with Braden Smith and just how aggressive he is on defense, I mean, he's trying to interrupt every pass lane, it seems like. Do you think that if he can kind of early on maybe interrupt some of that flow that they have to their offense, that we could potentially see, and I mean, not just Braden either, just the whole defense, the defense as a whole. If they can interrupt that speed a little, maybe get some turnovers early and quick in the game, do you think that we can see potentially Marquette having to slow down a little bit?
It'll be interesting. I think yes, I think definitely could, especially right. Brain's shown the first two games he's going to pick up full court. He's going to get into guys,
Mhm.
and then it'll be interesting because I think he definitely can. I also worry that he's going to get beat on a lot of like back doors or things like that for
Mhm.
just as active as an offense as they have. But I like him picking up full court just in theory at least to try to slow down their offense, even if it's just 2 to 3 seconds, right? That just kind of takes them out of their rhythm at least a little bit. But with that is Smith has to be on them, and if he's picking up full court, he can't be gambling at least in the backcourt, right? Because if he does, then if he gets burned and it's 5-on-4, and if he's in, then like they're going to get an open three.
Right.
But yeah, more in the half court, I definitely agree. Like he'll get into the passing lanes. Don't know if Painter has commented a ton on it. I think I thought he said something maybe after the first game when Smith hit 7, but like it was pretty much that Braden's gonna be active, but he knows when like too much is too much, pretty much. So
Cool. Okay.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, we'll wrap up basketball with a couple of questions that I kind of dropped on these three guys right before we started going live, and I did that intentionally to give you a little bit of time to think about it, but not too much. But two questions here: if there was one player that we could sort of just keep in the locker room for a game, and an opposing player,
National
when
or
we
Big
played
Ten?
that team, Big Ten only.
Okay.
So that's question number one. So let's say you were going to pick. I'm trying to think of a role player. Okay, regardless, any team we're playing, one of their players just has to stay in the locker room the entire time, doesn't get to play. That's question number one. Question number two is if there's one Big Ten player you'd love to see on this current team you think would fit in well, who would that be? Damon, what do you think? We'll start with you.
Yeah. So this is who we'd want on our team. Somebody in the Big Ten.
Yeah. So two questions: who we'd want on our team, and then who one player that we don't have to play against. Nothing bad happens to him. He just stays in the locker room. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
has some homework
Well,
to do or something.
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly.
So
That's
in regards to like who I would want on my team, I've been thinking about it a lot. It's definitely it would either be a point guard or a center, just because I feel like Purdue's team as a whole, I feel like there's depth there, but I would like some more depth in the point guard and the center rotation, just because I think somebody's mentioned it after the first or second game that Purdue is just so spoiled with 7-footers that just even Caleb First being 6'10", like I get a little squeamish about just him being at the 5 just because he's not 7 foot. That I think that's totally just a what I'm used to thing. So if I had to have somebody be on our team, it'd probably be Hunter Dickinson. Him and Edie rotating out. Like Edie's the big guy down low, and then Dickinson, he can shoot it, he can take it down low. So I think that would just be, I would feel bad for whoever's playing center on the opposing team. There's no break. And then as far as a player that I wouldn't want to see against us, That one's tough. Let me. Is it okay if somebody else goes and then I think about that a little bit? Come back
Yeah,
to me.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Once again.
Chris, what do you think?
I am going to do the opposite, and I want Hunter Dickinson to stay in the locker room because that dude just roasts us every time, and it's so annoying, and I hate seeing it. And on the flip side, stuck between two guys, and I don't know why, but either Chucky Hepburn
Yeah.
and
Solid pick.
Jalen Pickett, and I think I'm going to go with Chucky Hepburn just because I've just seen more from him than I know from Jalen Pickett. So,
Yeah.
I just like his game. I like his style, his confidence, his capability. He kind of, and his hair's cool. So
Yeah, I think those are two really good picks, and I agree. You know, the guy I'd want to keep in the locker room would be Hunter Dickinson. He just adds a dynamic that we struggle to guard. You know, and that he's kind of been our kryptonite. You know, every single time we've played him. So I would just love for him to stay in that locker room. Still a dangerous Michigan team. You know, they got a first round pick with Jet Howard and
Yeah.
whatnot, but I think we can contain him a lot better with him in the locker room. And then, honestly, I had to think about, you know, who I'd want on the team. You know, I'm really big on Rutgers this year, and I would love to just have an experienced point guard. And I'm really big on Paul Mulcahy, so I'd probably have to pick him. He's more of a Purdue type of point guard, and I think he would fit in well, just from the experience and skill standpoint. And Damon, did you have an answer? And we'll save Joe for last, or do you still need to think about it?
Yeah. You brought up Rutger, and it immediately Clifford Omarui. Is that how you say his last name? I would
It was
not like.
almost who I picked.
Yeah, he gave us some fits last year a few times, and I think he's just super athletic. So I think he's like a pretty tough matchup for Edie because not only is he also sizable to her. I mean, he's 6'11". Edie's, you know, got 5 inches on him, but still, you know, he's 6'11", 240 pounds, but he can move. He's super athletic. So I think he just presents a lot of problems for a guy like Edie.
He doesn't play like he's 6'11", though.
No,
I mean,
absolutely not.
And I just don't know. I mean, our front court's so deep. I just things would get a little convoluted. Maybe that's the only reason I didn't pick him. But that was kind of my original thought. But I went.
Yeah, I mean, even Caleb McConnell too. They're one of their guards. I mean, Rutgers. I think they could be all right this year.
Yeah, they got to figure out the offense is what's going to have to. Their defense can be elite, but Amori, like, sorry, I'm sidetracking, but Amori is a bad matchup for Edie just because of how good of a lob threat he is. And so when they run pick and roll, like if Amori even gets close to behind Edie, and when Edie's in drop coverage, like it's over. Especially with Mulcahy, who I also like as a point guard. You know, Mulcahy's just, you can kind of just throw it up towards the top of the backboard and be like, all right, go get it, Amori, and he's going to.
there somewhere.
I think he led the NCAA in dunks last year. I could be maybe the Big Ten, but yeah. I guess I'll lead into mine. So the player that I would just like don't want to play immediately is just Hunter Dickinson. That was my initial thought. Just I don't want to play him. I don't want to see him do his celebration after he knocks down 5 threes in Mackey. I don't, you know. But also, I'll just throw a second one out there since Dickinson was already mentioned. Is Holman Hawkins. I think I'm really high in Illinois, and I think it pretty much starts with him. He's a super versatile 5 that I don't even know if he plays the 5 for them, but can't play the 4. Has shown some off the bounce juice this year. I clipped it and put it on Twitter. He had a sick pass. He catches about 3-4 feet behind the left, 3-point line on the left wing, 3 dribbles into the lane, 4 guys collapse on him. He does this like no look wraparound pass to Shannon in the corner who missed because he's not a great shooter, but he's the other one as along with Dickinson that really, really scares me. And then who I'd want to add, I was also between 2. I'm going point guard route. And I'll start with Jalen Pickett. I think he's the best point guard, or best just guard period in the Big Ten. He had a 15-point triple-double today against Butler. He didn't even he really didn't shoot the ball that well. It is the reason why I was almost didn't go Pickett is because he is a lot of pick and roll heavy and he can back guys down, and that's a lot of his game. And so like I'm worried about the spacing, but having a guy that can get 11 assists in a game, this is his second, out of 3 games he's had I think 6, 11, and 11 assists. Like
Jeez.
having a guy like that can just find the snipers on Purdue would be amazing. The other name that I'd quickly throw out, who I think for me is probably the second best point guard or second best guard in the league. It's him or Chucky, would be Tony Perkins, who's more of he's going to facilitate. He's not as much of a scorer, but he's going to facilitate, and I really like him as a defender. So those are kind of my 2.
Yeah.
I would go Pickett though, and Dickinson is my final. The question.
It was interesting is I don't know if you listened to Field of 68 or not, but they had Geo Baker on there, and he said Perkins is the biggest smack talker in the Big Ten.
Really?
Which I thought was just didn't expect that from him.
Yeah.
So
he's an Indianapolis boy too.
Fun little anecdote that he shared about him.
That is funny. Cool. Well, Frank, did you have any other follow-up questions, or was that kind of the?
No, that was all I had. Joe, it's been terrific having you on, and like I said, for anyone who's not following Joe, it's Joe_Jackson 2210, correct?
Yeah. There's only so many combos you can do with Joe Jackson as a name. So
definitely check him out. His content is something you definitely don't want to miss if you're a basketball fan. Like I said, I check out his post game threads every time, and Chris, like you said, I'm like anytime I see that tip off, I know I'm gonna be spending about 30 minutes not getting much done. So love what you're doing. Like I said, I know how much goes into it. I think I know. I probably really don't have a clue as to how much goes into that, but it definitely doesn't go unnoticed. And I know a lot of people really appreciate it. So love seeing what you're doing out there, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys having me on. This has been fun. So yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed, and just gonna keep putting them out there. Feel free always to disagree, discuss, whatever. I'm always open for it. So.
Oh, dude, I'll be ready to disagree next time. I don't know what I'm going to disagree on yet, but I'm going to look up some big words on that basketball encyclopedia you guys were talking about. I'm just going to start throwing them at you. It's not even going to make
out random nonsense.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Joe. We appreciate it.
Man, thanks for joining.
All right. Thank you. See ya.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're at the hour mark, so do we want to briefly talk Illinois and I feel like there's just a lot to unwrap there with football.
We can speed through in about 5 minutes, just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't get to watch the game. I was in a wedding at that time.
You've been slacking, man.
I know. I just need to stop being in weddings is what the issue is. But yeah, so you guys will tell me, what sounds like from what I did hear, sounds like it was a great game. It sounds like, I think Chris, you said it felt like how Purdue had played, in the first 6 games of the season. So I'd love
this
to know
was
more
definitely reminded me of September, October Purdue, like mid-October Purdue.
To me, it reminded me of the Syracuse game, but we won. I mean, it was full of penalties, full of chippy. It was full of questionable calls. I mean, and you ask Illinois fans, they're going to say the ref won the game. But in reality, I mean, we both had some bad calls. We had some things that didn't get called. Maccabee got hit out of bounds. That didn't get called.
17 yards out of bounds.
For the second time this season, we got 2 unsportsmanlikes on the same PAT attempt. So they got to kick off from
our own end zone.
Yeah, it was crazy. Major things to take away. Maccabee continues to go hard, 107 yards, average 4 yards per carry. We held Chase Brown to his lowest rushing total of the season at just 98 yards on 23 carries. Again, this is a guy who gets 30 to 45 carries a game. He did only average 4.2 yards per carry, which normally is at 5.2. We did a great job locking down Isaiah Williams. Again, we described him last week as kind of the slightly slower Rondale Moore. Jalen Graham got the assignment on him a lot, and
which is
he was
crazy.
Targeted 3 times against Jalen Graham's, no catches, and then one of those was the tip ball, which led to the interception. which Kieran, hoping for the best for you, man. Glad you're able to make that catch and seal the win, and hope to see you back next week healthy. Another great day for the offensive line too.
Yeah.
Just giving up a handful of hurries. I think it was only 6 hurries on the day and 0 sacks. So
We have a mobile
can't ask
quarterback
for better.
now?
We have a mobile quarterback now. And I was talking with an Illinois fan on Twitter, and they said, we just weren't prepared. Obviously, we didn't prepare for Aiden's feet today. And I said, yeah, neither did we. Like
Neither did
no Purdue
anybody
fan
in the
expected
country.
him to break off for 24-yard runs like he did.
I'll be honest. I don't think Aiden was prepared to run.
I mean, we talk about Maccabee having 106 yards, averaging 3.8 per carry, but Aiden he averaged 16.5 yards per carry. So let's not.
Yeah,
it might have only been 2 carries, but it's still.
I mean, that 24-yard run was impressive, and what I liked about it was he didn't think about it. Like the seas parted and he grabbed the ball and ran. And I've seen it. I've yelled it so many times, like run. But it was nice to see. And just him doing that a couple times is enough to keep the defense honest and to add that extra, dimension to the game. And Brahm said in the post game presser that it's becoming an inevitable part of college football. Which kind of made me raise my eyebrows because he's always been a pocket passer type of coach. But I'll be curious to see if we see any changes going forward. But he just said it's something that just continues to grow, and it's kind of hard to avoid at this point. So
yeah,
all in all, a good game. The defense definitely showed up. Secondary looked good again. Cam Allen had a really good game comparatively speaking to the previous 4. Other than the missed tackle that led to the touchdown. But Brahm said that was the only defensive adjustment too at the line was that play where Chase Brown ran in for the touchdown. So
yeah,
all in all, a really good game. As we kind of look forward to Northwestern next week. Don't know if you guys know this, they had 2 quarterbacks get hurt last week's game, so it's looking like they're going to be playing a 3rd string QB.
They're a mash unit right now.
Awesome. It's going to be the 3rd string QB has the best game of his. I'm just kidding.
I mean, we've seen it, so we've seen it happen with us.
My heart is sinking right now because I'm so nervous.
Yeah, he didn't play well. He came in and only threw like 3 passes and threw a pick as well.
Awesome.
So not looking great. Defensively they play a whole lot of zone. I think it was around 70% of the time they're playing zone. No one really sticks out on defense. I'm not gonna try his name, but I think it's Adebawore is an edge rusher. He's got 4 sacks on the season, so definitely nothing to write home about. But when you look at the fact that he's getting passes man 21% of the time and single man on man, that's kind of impressive. Offensively, they have a running back, Evan Hull, who's averaging 12.6 yards per catch as a running back, which is impressive. Rushing, he's about average. But I think given the fact that they're a banged up team, they have some linebackers hurt, they have a cornerback out for the season, and the fact that they're on their 3rd string QB, I expect this to possibly be a game where we aren't seeing our starters going into the 4th quarter.
That'd be great.
Now the fact that I said that means that it probably won't happen, but I'm going to predict something crazy like 35-10. Good guys.
Yeah, and just a quick add-on to the Illinois game. I love seeing that the ball was distributed pretty evenly. Sheffield with 6, Durham with 7, Charlie with only 4, Maccabee with 4, and then sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'd say the touchdown pass to Charlie Jones might have been the best pass Aiden's made all season. Yeah. Risky pass, but it wasn't nice. I mean, it brought me to my feet from my couch. I stood up and celebrated that one.
I just love seeing the ball get distributed evenly. I think we just have a lot of great hands on in the wide receiver core and tight end units. So love seeing that's getting spread around a little bit more than it was against Iowa. But yeah, I think pending weather, this should be a good game for Purdue. I think that I don't even know if there is going to be weather. I'm just saying if there is bad weather, it could be a little bit closer than what we like. But yeah, I hope that it's, something to the likes of, like you said, 35-10, 42-10, something like that would be great. Not looking good weather-wise.
Just going to be cold, 25.
Well,
Well,
is it
it
going to
was cold
snow?
last week.
No weather.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
Cold as
that's
hell.
fine. As long as it's not going to snow or super windy, I'll take the
I'll take
cold.
snow over rain,
Yeah.
personally. But go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. That's it. I just think that hopefully it's gonna. I'm predicting a game similar to what Frank was saying.
Yep.
Weather depending. If the weather's not in our favor, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah.
And hopefully they don't have any third string quarterback. This is my first start Magic.
Yeah. So I think, and I'll kind of address the elephant in the room. The guys are still playing for the Big Ten West. I think these guys are pretty locked in.
Yeah.
Hands are sweating.
So I think that there's definitely was a mental shift for the Illinois game. Something clicked, something happened, something changed, but it was definitely more locked in as a whole entire unit. Well, sure, we gave up some plays and made some mistakes, but that's going to happen in football. I think that continues. I don't think that we're getting too high up. We're going to get too high up. I think we're just going to go out and make a business trip at home, celebrate seniors, and send them on their way, and then hope for some help. But I think, like a 42-17. I think some garbage time touchdowns probably. But I think Maccabee goes crazy. I think Aiden has a pretty clean game. Honestly, I could see, depending on what happens, I could see Aiden not even come out after halftime, depending on how the game's set up, just to keep him healthy. But that said, I don't trust Nebraska or a Pat Fitzgerald team because they did give Ohio State a tough time, but that was with two quarterbacks that were healthy. So,
Well, and this is a team again who has lost to Duke, Southern Illinois, and Miami, Ohio. So, definitely some embarrassing losses on their record, and
Yep.
they have the 128th ranked offense with respect to points per game, 96th in yards per game. They're only averaging 14.3 points per game.
could we see another pick six?
Maybe another puke six even.
Oof.
Yeah.
From someone
man.
else.
It makes me so nervous. So obviously we're big Minnesota fans this week as well. I've never rowed a boat before, but I'm ready to this weekend if Minnesota can pull it out against Iowa.
Yeah.
If we pull it out against Northwestern and they beat Iowa, we control our destiny then.
Yep.
Could you imagine a scenario where all we have to do is beat IU and Bloomington to
That makes me sick to my stomach.
win the West? Yeah, it does.
It gives it makes me wildly
Especially the fact that
nervous.
it's at IU.
Yeah. Well, it gives them something to play for, because right now they're not going to have anything to play for. But
yeah, they certainly aren't playing for pride. Whew. Good Lord, that team is terrible. And I guess the good thing is in this scenario, we have to get 2 wins against the 2 bottom feeders in each division. So the positive, but you still have to play the game.
And my take is, if we are who I'm not going to say think we are, if we are who we want to be as a team, because Brom said, not last press conference, but the one before, that we're not as good as we think we are. If we are who we would like to be and who a lot of us believe we are, then we win both of these games. And if we don't, then we don't deserve to be in Indianapolis.
Yep,
Yeah.
1,000%.
It'll
be a long week.
Man. Yep. It's going to be a long Saturday. Like sometimes when we have these like big games, like the Iowa game, I really debated on not even watching it and like just trying to force myself to do something else, because I get so nervous for these big games that like it makes me so sick to my stomach, and like I feel like those 3 hours take forever. But yeah, I'm
that
hopeful.
game's a 4:00 kick.
What is the
Iowa, Minnesota?
Okay, so right after we beat Northwestern, we can all watch Minnesota
Do me a
Beat.
favor.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. Um,
What, isn't that a rivalry game too? Don't they play for
Sorta.
Paul Bunyan's axe, or is that
Yeah, they do. I mean, it is a rivalry game just because, like, I mean, Iowa's real rival is Iowa State.
right?
So, it's kind of like in the same way that Purdue and Illinois are rivals.
I was gonna
Right.
say, like, does anyone actually care about the canon? Does anyone?
Although
I do, 'cause it's a trophy.
it's always a chippy game, so the players must.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. But in recent years, I mean, even Daryl Hazel beat Illinois. So
Yeah,
Twice.
that's true.
yeah, twice. Yeah, I'll never forget the 3 timeout game. We called 3 timeouts before the final field goal. Just
So almost
Why not?
30% of Daryl Hazel's wins came against Illinois.
ouch.
And
It's only
now-
funny because it's true.
And we have
Yeah.
a coach who's about, like, even at worst case scenario, if we go, X amount of wins, still the amount of wins that Brom has had compared to Hazel is laughable when we have all of Hazel's wins in one season last year with Brom.
True.
Mhm.
That's what I was getting at. Sorry, long way about short trip.
No, all good. But I'll wrap us up because we're already at the hour and 15-minute mark.
Yeah.
And Chris, if you have to work tomorrow, I know those mornings come pretty quick. So
I don't, but I have to take the kid to get tubes tomorrow.
all right, actually, then we're gonna keep going.
Yeah.
So anyway, like
Full send.
just kidding. But yeah, so again, appreciate everybody coming out and watching the episode tonight. And if you're tuning in later, listening to a recording on Spotify, you can listen on YouTube, you can listen, you can check it out on Twitter as well. We always keep the restreams on there too, so you can listen on a lot of different platforms, and we appreciate any time that you take out of your day to listen to us. We appreciate it a lot. Had a really good episode tonight. We talked with Joe Jackson, who is just a stat fiend. Just knows a ton when it comes to the X's and O's of basketball, and just really, really cool to hear that and to kind of hear him and Frank, share that back and forth and kind of just have that conversation. By the way, is anybody else hearing sirens? Oh wait, is that?
I am.
Oh, that's outside of my house.
I thought it was
That's
It was
my
like-
house.
I
Oh,
thought
there
it
it
was
goes.
outside my window. I can see it. I can see it on your screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on here, live
I-
on Channel 5 News. We're standing outside of Jeez Louise. Oh my gosh. There's a lot of geez, hopefully whoever's okay. But anyway, yeah, appreciate everybody coming out tonight for the episode. That was I couldn't tell if that was coming out of somebody else's mic or not, but
Yeah.
that's really funny.
Oh, Russ predicted 34-13.
Okay, awesome. Russ, we
Great prediction, Russ.
missed you
Appreciate
tonight,
that.
by the way. Always appreciate your input on everything. So we'll be glad to have you back next week. By the way, if anybody's still listening, next week we will be back to Tuesday nights. Is that correct?
Yes, because I don't think we play another Tuesday night basketball game for a while.
Okay, cool. So we'll be back to Tuesday nights at 9:30 next week. But again, appreciate everybody coming out. Listen to a great episode. Here's some really great data and analytics from Joe Jackson. Go follow him on Twitter. And yeah, we appreciate you guys so much. Boiler up and hammer down.
Boiler up.